Hi, I'm Jennifer Janish, owner of Adored Salon and Adored Signature Hand-Tied Hair Extensions. I'm obsessed with curly hair. I cut it, style it, and extend it, and this podcast is all about my curly girl obsessions that stretch far beyond just curly hair. Hey, it's me, Jennifer, from Adored Salon, Adored Signature Hand-Tied Hair, and the Curly Girls Obsessions podcast, which you are listening to right now. Today, I have with me Alyssa.
Hello.
And my client that I've been doing for how long have I been doing her?
8, 9 years,
8 or 9 years. You'll probably have to talk about. And so I asked her today if we could just record while we're doing her hair together to discuss hair extensions, because she's had multiple types, methods in her hair throughout the 9 years. And I want to talk about the pros and cons of all of them. And currently, obviously, Amanda wears our hand-tied hair extensions from Adored Signature Hand-Tied Hair, and I hope she loves them. So let's start at the beginning of your extension journey with, at the time, we were doing K-tips, and you were also getting like an all over bleach touch-up at that time, which I know you loved. She would prefer me to dump the bleach on her head currently.
Absolutely.
But we went through a lot too with those K-tips. So let's talk about your journey with those.
I did start with a K-tip. When they first go in, they're great. But I would say after about 4 weeks, they are not so great. So the K-tips, once they grow out, that's just kind of it. They grow out, and you have to keep them in your hair until essentially they won't stay in your hair anymore. So you can see the outgrowth. So they're pretty expensive. And then, well, you don't pay for a raise or anything. Essentially, for the back, probably 4 to 5 months that they're in, they don't look so good, and they basically like slide out of your hair. So you're either going to have to get them more often, like every 6 months, or it can go a little longer, but your hair does not look as good at all.
So what you're referring to is replacing the hair, like the hand-tied hair lasts.
It lasts, and it still looks good because you get them raised. So how often, obviously, it's up to the client and how they take care of them. But the hand ties look more natural for sure than the K-tips did.
Amanda also has curly hair, which she likes to straighten. A lot of the times we will do a Brazilian blowout on her, but she straightens her hair. And would you say that it's easier to straighten the hand tie, smooth out the naturally curly hand tie versus the K-tips with the buns? Like, was that ever?
The K-tips with the buns, you have to be so careful with, because if the brush even visibly touches those buns, essentially, it could pull them out. And then I always used to have to worry about them like melting.
Yeah,
from the heat. Yeah, exactly. Like even if it was just near it, you had to worry about it melting. So there were a million different issues. But I will also say that the K-tips, the curls isn't the same, so it doesn't match your hair, and you almost don't have a choice, and you have to straighten it when you get the K-tips.
Those were permed.
Yeah, they were. I mean, it was like a wave compared to curly hair, actually, even when permed. So I would say for curly hair, it's definitely better to get the hand tied
with the natural texture. Plug for Adored Signature. Yeah, and I'll never forget. I had one client one time. Well, I had a couple of clients that also were addicted to the flat iron, and one time, one client came in with them all melted together.
Oh my God.
Literally, she was,
That's
I mean,
terrifying.
like, how many bundles were you? Do you remember? 6?
5 or 6.
5 or 6. This client had so much hair. It would take me 12 hours to do her install. She was like, I want to say she was 9 or 10 bundles, right?
That's ridiculous.
And the one time she came in and I like had heart failure, I separated her hair and the entire back underneath, like the veil of hair that hung over it, was just melted together.
From what?
A flat iron. Cause she had hair
I honestly,
kinkier than hers.
yeah.
It was so kinky, and then trying to get in between the bonds. And she was, I think, obsessed with straightening her hair that was in the bonds, right? Because it was so tight at the base. And
And it doesn't match then either, so you could tell.
yeah, so like that grow out phase where probably like 2 to the 6 month point where you've got, I mean, think of how much your hair grows in a month, right? What is it? 1/4 of an inch.
At least, yeah.
So in 2 months, you're 1/2 an inch out. So it looked like if she didn't straighten that, it would look like a relaxer that needed a touch up, right? Because it was
Picturing like
so,
a jellyfish.
yeah, so curly. And then at the 5 or 6 month mark, how much is there? And hanging, and once they become hanging, they're harder to get around. So, my God, and Amanda, do you remember that time when so with the K-tips too, we had to go 48 hours between coloring and installing the extensions. And the one time we took yours out, colored your hair. Were you going to a Jimmy Buffett concert or something?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'll never forget this.
Oh, God.
And her hair was like in a bun with hair wrapped around it, right? Like
Yeah,
you had
it's like a bun.
crunchy
Crunchy, yeah.
thing. So then Jackie washed the extensions to prep them because you had to wash them to make sure they weren't over processed from the perm, right? And Jackie washes them. Like that was the other hard part when you're getting these K-tips that had to be custom permed. You waited 3 to 4 months for them to come. And it was like always to the wire, right? So she washes them and they're stretching like something fierce. They're totally over processed. And I believe it took us, I really think it took us 4 weeks to get that hair. And the woman who permed them was going out of town. I'll never forget calling because we knew that there was this deadline, calling the company and being like, these 5 bundles are over processed. Our client has no hair in her head because when you would remove them, the bond would disintegrate. So like, that was not like repurposing K-tip hair, right? So the bond disintegrated and the hair was in the garbage. And you were on your way to a concert doing your thing. And I knew damn well that we were not going to be replacing that hair the next day.
That wasn't the only time there was that. Then I think it happened again. Like the next time I needed to have the hair put in, it came and it was over processed.
I think that was the final straw.
And
that
then
was like when we were
and I
like,
was
we're
going out
done.
of town, I think.
And that
And
was,
so then you had to get me tape-ins.
and what did you think about those tapes?
Oh my God. Worst ever. Ever. Looked so fake. Felt terrible. Terrible. Terrible, 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 terrible.
Yeah. That was, oh my gosh, I'll never forget that. We were sweating it. And you were like, when I had to make the call when you were on the way to the Jimmy Buffett concert, you were like, hold on. I'm gonna pull over and puke right now.
Yeah, literally.
I have no hair. And yeah, that was that was the final time was the last straw where we were just like, no more, we're not doing this again. And then, so let's discuss your process with now the hand tied hair.
Okay.
How do you, obviously I know how, but for the people that are listening to the podcast, what's your regimen?
So
She also has, I know I said this before, but I'm just gonna say it again. Naturally curly hair that she smooths out. We put in naturally curly hand-tied hair extensions. So tell us your.
So I do not wash my hair every other day. When I do wash my hair, it is a process. It's, like I use the Color Wow snag free shampoo to make sure that I get all the knots out first, or even sometimes condition my hair before I wash my hair, just to make sure that it's smooth and it's not pulling on my hair or breaking my curls or the extensions. Then I wash with regular shampoo, then I wash with purple shampoo, then I do a conditioner or a mask or sometimes both. So it's a process. And then just making sure you're using like good shampoos. Obviously when I'm using your hair, only good stuff, but also the extensions, super important. I do brush my hair in the shower and I wash it section by section. So like I put it in a clip, to make sure you're getting like all the hair in between plain and there's no matting and stuff. I always sleep with my hair in braids. I just feel like it helps keep it, not knotting, no matting, nothing like that. Before I go to bed at night, I always, brush it section by section. When I dry my hair, I do it section by section. Sometimes I'll like half dry it and then I'll just put it in like 2 braids and let it dry the rest of the way. But just making sure that you're brushing it section by section, super important. There's no matting. In fact, the only time I ever had any matting or like knottiness was with the K-tips. Like in the back, when I had my hair curly one of the times, it all wrapped around each other. It was terrible.
So that with the what you don't have with the hand tied is dealing with the hair that is naturally shedded out of your scalp. Do you remember that with the K-tips? Brushing that hair down.
Oh yeah.
And so the feeling of that, like when I had them in my hair and I would go through that stage, it was crazy uncomfortable, right? Like you had to make sure you brushed those. So
and then you have to worry about not snagging the tip when you're brushing it too.
Right, so that it doesn't fall out.
They won't fall out.
Because now if an original K-tip was attached to 15 or 20 strands of hair, halfway through, like 75% of that has fallen out, right? So the hair is attached to less hair and you're trying to brush down the naturally shedded hairs from the scalp and 75% less of hair that's attached to a lot of hair,
Okay,
right?
wait, explain that to me because I've never done, like, I don't have any experience with K-tips besides like, putting like a random color in someone's head. Like I've done that, but like,
What's it like?
like
So
brushing down, what do you mean by that? Like,
okay, so when we remove the hand tied extensions and we
Right.
take out the beads
Yeah.
and we comb out the shedded hair that is shed
Right.
from the scalp, right?
Yep.
Like it
Yeah.
doesn't
like the
go
natural
anywhere.
fallout.
Right, yeah. So when you're dealing with K-tips, so you're connecting in quarter inch
Right.
squares
That little
all
one.
over, right? So let's say in that 1/4 inch square, there's 20 strands of hair, right? Okay. And if over the course of 4 to 6 months, you've lost 50% of the 20, right? So it's shed out of your head
Right.
and they can't go anywhere because it's in glue, right? That keratin bond. I mean, the keratin bond is not glue, but it's an adhesive,
Yeah.
right? So if you can imagine this bond that's grown down, right? So now it's this far down, and then you've got all these strands that had
Yeah.
shed from your scalp
Right.
just hanging out there. So you have to
get them
brush
out.
in rows and you have to brush them down. Otherwise, those strands have a bulb on the end of it
Right.
and they tangle crazy easy. Does that make sense?
No,
Because
yeah.
like, it's like
I was
free
trying to like
falling.
picture what you meant
Right,
by,
like what is
down,
it?
but, like,
And of
yeah.
course, it says like you're matching density, but really and truly, you're putting in more hair than you're grabbing in that 1/4 inch square. So it's attached to less hair, which then makes it heavier.
Right.
And then you're trying to brush it without breaking it because those strands are very sacred at the end because some have fallen out, right?
Right.
And I believe too, like where you would experience the most gaps when over time, after like the 2.5 to 3 month mark, it's gonna be right here where the hair is the most compromised, right?
Yeah.
Like you get this big gap in between the front and the back because that hair is always being pulled up or down or moved around, or it's just less of and super fine now.
Mhm.
So that's where it becomes problematic. Amanda, did you ever struggle with the fact of the like shoelace effect? If your hair would get like if you would put too much, like if it would get oily or anything like that, where you would see or feel like you would see them separate like shoelaces?
Not until it starts growing out, then that definitely does happen.
Like
When you have the outgrowth, it is, because it's like, it's pulling on, right, it pulls on your natural hair strands,
Mhm.
and they're not like all at the top, so you can kind of see it like where they're, it's almost like a line, you could see the outgrowth, and it does like from the, because your regular hair looks like it's normal and together, and then kind of like from where the tip is down, it does look like shoelaces. It does not look natural at all.
Right, like they're in curly, where it becomes even worse with that, right? So straight hair, you can just brush it 10,000 times a day to get that fullness back, right? But
Yeah.
like if you were to style it, say in a perfect world, if it matched your curl pattern, which I felt like when I had mine, I got it pretty close, at least I thought I did then. But if you have straight hair, you could brush through that shoelace effect to kind of plump it up, smudge, like just nudge it up so that it wouldn't be so hanging in strands like that. But with curly, no way, right? Like it just, it was just gonna look like shoelaces, no matter how tiny the bands were or how thick the bands were. They were gonna be separated and just hanging there. So like you could see at the bottom, almost like a checkerboard, a shoelace checkerboard, if that makes sense. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah.
it just chunk. So then with the hand tied hair, you get more of like a blanket effect because of the way that it is. It is more like a blanket than it is like a shoelace. So you're going to get more coverage, more thickness, more fullness. Now, some people argue that hand tied doesn't move like the keratin bands because of how they're dispersed through your head, whereas the hand tied is in a row. Do you feel like you ever experienced a problem with that?
When you put your hair in a ponytail, when they first go in a little bit, because obviously it is
Yeah.
stiff. But also I mean, I have really curly hair, so I mean, the ponytail itself is always a to do, right? Having curly hair. But once, like honestly, even when my hair starts to grow, like when I'm getting ready for a raise, I wear my hair in a ponytail more because I don't on the front end of it, and it's easier to at the back end. So I would say that's the only downfall, but it's not like that the whole time. It's just when you're getting put in.
Mhm.
But you can do a low pony and everything just fine.
Yeah. Agreed.
I also feel like we don't recommend people putting their hair in like a high ponytail for the first like, I don't know, at least full week, if not two.
Right.
You can't.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I want those in
Like unless your
Jen's
scalp like
daughter does.
nicely stretches out. Yeah, London
London
figures it out.
doesn't care. She's like, well, I have to wear a ponytail. Hey, girl.
And so crazy that London also it doesn't break off on her.
I know.
I don't
Well,
know how
some-
she does it.
The only
She
thing
must keep it
sometimes-
flips down, but then flip up.
So her front bead does kind of pop sometimes. I will give her that. It definitely
From the
causes. Yeah. And I tell her all the time, I'm like, so you gotta stop it, you gotta stop it. And she's like, I know.
I think, like, I told her, like, if you can keep the wefts laying flat and then flip up, you know what I mean? Like how she
Yeah.
does, then you can do that. But like, if you can't do that, you definitely cannot flip it up in the beginning, because it definitely, yeah, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna, I mean, that is the,
I just would never. I would just low pony it for the first like week or two and then go from there.
Amanda too, you're pretty heavily invested in like your routine is very similar to mine, right? Like I
Yeah,
definitely check
So it's like a scheduling item for sure.
right? If you're gonna get them, you're gonna treat them like you're gonna treat your new Louis Vuitton member, right? Like, because that's what they are. They're like an investment in yourself. They're an investment, period. So you've got to have the right follow-up care at home. Otherwise, the whole thing could be disastrous. Extensions are not for people who don't want to do anything with their hair. I refer to them as like extension slobs. We've had a few of them over the years. Definitely the
People
one.
would just think they want like long mermaid hair and they're like, oh, this will be so fun.
Yeah,
Like, yeah, it's fun, but like
but you have to
put in
maintain
the
it.
work.
One time I'll never forget, this client came in and we used to raise other people's installs in the beginning because we just didn't know, right? Like you're like, oh yeah, sure, we can do that.
Mhm.
And now we will only raise people's hair who gets their hair installed by us and uses our hair, because we learned the very, very hard way. We had this girl come in from college on summer break who had gotten the extensions installed the previous summer break before she came in, and she never got a raise. And when the stylist separated her hair in the back, it was 9 months of grow out. Can you even fathom? And the amount of tangles.
Were the vampire?
Yes,
Oh
it was just all matted, right?
right.
And then the stylist started taking it out, and the stylist who originally had put them in had cut the wefts and glued the wefts which is like kind of a practice that some people will do. And the wefts started, not only, like, I was like, you should just tell that girl you can't do this. And the stylist was like, listen, I gotta pay my mortgage. She's on my appointment book for 3 hours. I'm gonna figure this out. It took her 5 hours to do it, because trying to get it out. And then when it got out, the entire roll fell apart, the hair started falling apart. And she told the client, like, look, this is what's happening. And the client was like, well, you're gonna fix that. Like, I can't leave here without the hair. But this college student was in no means prepared to buy new hair. Right? So and of course, at that time, we didn't even own the extension line to be like, oh, we have this
Yeah.
hair sitting around.
Right.
So it was, oh my gosh, that was one of many disasters that we finally were like, okay, we're not doing this anymore.
Right.
Like
Before
this,
my time,
yes.
yes, it was always like that. It was always, no, we will not raise.
Aren't you glad you came in when the rules and the boundaries were set? Like, this is how it rolls. This is how. It took me and Jackie a lot of trial and error to get to the point of where we are now. You
Right.
know, like, as a stylist, I think you're expected to just do anything and everything, right? And
Not
now,
anymore.
yeah, no, but there still are stylists out there that do anything and everything.
Yeah,
You
I
know?
agree with that.
I feel like here,
It's just becoming more normalized to be able to say no and to be more specialized and. I mean, at the end of the day, run your business how you want to run it.
yeah. So we don't do men's haircuts, we don't do
We'll do men's haircuts if they're
family
4 inches or longer curly.
for a curly cut,
Yeah.
yes, that's true. Or family, Alyssa still does her stepdad,
That's my only guy though.
and I will every now and then do Brad, my husband. But that's it, I
Yeah.
don't think, and Jackie does her.
Every now and then.
Jackie does her dad. Yeah.
Every now and then
Brad's going
gets
to a
lucky.
local haircutter.
Yeah.
Does he go to somewhere else, Jen?
Well, Brad Junior goes to a barber. Some guy from the gym that he
Yeah.
works out with that he likes, and
What
Brad
is his
Senior,
ass cuts?
Brad Senior,
That's cool.
he does a good job.
Oh yeah, and barbers are crazy.
Yeah, like
I
Brad
can't
Junior
do
gets his
that.
hairline airbrushed when he,
I know. Yeah,
and it looks so
they all do
cool.
that. There's like hair makeup in the
Yeah, I'm like, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Don't sweat tonight.
I mean, right?
But he
Don't
said
go to
it's
the
sweat
gym.
proof.
What?
Yes, like he's going to the club afterwards. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed. Barbering is definitely an art.
Oh my
these
gosh,
days.
totally.
Not like,
I mean,
work.
people ask me all the time, like, oh, like, I'll just go, like, give my cut or my son like a quick cut. I'm like,
No,
no,
that's not a quick cut.
first of all, I won't, and second of all, like, this is the whole world. Like, barbering is like, I don't know.
Yeah.
They do amazing work, and I just like, I like what I like, and I don't want to get involved in that. And I will happily recommend my clients to a great barber.
So I guess we could say that too, like, not only do we not do men's haircuts, but we really don't touch short hair.
Yeah, I don't like. It's just a short haircut in general. Like,
Yeah.
regardless of who has it, if someone comes in and like, they get on my schedule, I'm gonna tell them that I typically don't do short hair.
You may not want this appointment with me today.
I just don't do it. Like,
Yeah.
I don't do it.
You know what my haircut that I hate is? I always call it the
Stacked bob.
Karen, the stacked bob, is it inverted? Is that what they
I
like?
don't know, but for some reason I have a lot of those.
Oh,
Don't I? I mean,
oh
like,
God, I cannot.
you know what is better when they're curly? I find that I have like fun shaping them rather than like straight. Is like, then
Super
again, it's just
precise,
not
yeah.
what I do. Like, I don't do straight hair that often.
Yeah, I flat out tell the client, like, I'm not doing this. You're not gonna like it. If this is not gonna be a good outcome for either of us. I hate that haircut. And juicy. It's like, if you put that on my schedule, if that comes through in like,
Poor Jackie.
yeah, if that comes through
Poor Jackie.
on a client request form, it cannot land in my chair because it's just not gonna be good.
I will say though, I have like 3 of them.
Well, good for you. Good.
No,
Tell Julie you want more.
I want more. The thing is that really gets me through them is they're all like, I really like the person.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, fine.
I can handle
You
it.
can have your fob.
Yeah,
Your stack fob.
you can handle it.
Yeah.
So, what other questions should I be asking?
I don't know, we got off on a barber thing.
I know, we did, but that is what makes this is life in the hair salon, right? Do you have anything to add to it?
I mean, I would just say that. Well, obviously K-tips do have, some things about them that are positive. Hand tied is a better option. I know, like, actually at first, when we first switched, I was a little taken back by the fact that like you have to pay for raise and that kind of stuff, and I thought it would be more expensive. But it's really not more expensive because they last longer than the K-tips do.
How long does your hair usually last?
I can go up to 12 months. I've gone up to 12 months, but I am meticulous about taking care of my hair. You know that.
And that's
I don't want people to think that that's like false advertising. I think they're really supposed to last like 8 to 9 months, but
really,
when
do
they're
you want to know the truth? When they're blonde, and for someone who's heat styling them like you do, 4 months, 4 to 6 months is the average. So the fact, like, you can go as long as you do. I will say though, we put a lot of hair in your head. Like, if you had just the average amount of hair that would be considered a regular install amount, it would not last as long.
I also think too, like with her density, we almost like have no choice.
Yeah,
to put
she
that much hair in
definitely,
her head.
because her real hair has a lot of fluff, right?
Especially towards the base, like that's what we're building everything out to.
And so because you have that extra hair in your head, it also lasts longer. The more hair you have, the more hair there is, but that does not dispute the quality, right? Because of the way you maintain it, because of the quality of our hair, it lasts like that. Because, yeah, could someone else get their hair to last a year that had blonde extensions that they were curling or flat ironing all the time? They could, but they'd be dried as shit and cracked off halfway up their head, right? So like with you, I feel like you lose over the course of the year, like 4 inches of length over time. Would you agree? I feel like,
And then over a year, yeah.
Yeah.
probably.
off the extensions, just from the heat damage brushing through, just normal everyday breakage type of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's not connected to a blood source, so.
Yeah. With all the conditioning that she does and everything, that's pretty awesome. What else? What did we not cover? What would our viewers like to know more about?
Oh, no, I feel like that was a good, like, you know, K-tip versus hand side.
Conversation.
And,
Yeah.
a little appreciation for our barbers.
Yep. Right. The work that we're not gonna do.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, they're not gonna do extensions probably, so.
Right. No, they're not. Yes, and we do refer a lot of people to Celia's friend. who's a
Yeah.
barber.
All of our, like this one guy that we all went to cosmetology school with, was in the barber program. And we're all like, yep, here you go, here's all of our clients that we won't do,
Yeah,
for their kids.
we can't do a fade to save our life, but that's okay.
Like,
Because
hey,
we can
me-
create 26-inch long hair like
Right.
nobody's business.
but give me, like a little, what's that called, 180 scissor cut or 90 scissor cut all the way around?
Yeah, that's all
what
right.
it's called.
A 90.
Jen taught me how to do that one back in the day. That's my go-to. That's all I know how to do when it comes to short hair. And let me tell you, it works every time.
It does. It totally does. Give you
Like-
those rounded layers.
Yeah. Right? Like, I don't know. My stepdad loves the way his hair looks.
Mhm.
Or he just tells me that and doesn't care. I don't know.
He's just glad you get a cut, right?
I mean,
Like,
in anyone else's defense, my brother and my brother will only come to me if he wants a buzz cut, and my dad refuses because he's too particular.
there you go, right? Like,
Point is, don't book a short haircut.
don't come to a short
I
salon
don't want you.
for a short haircut. We'll only cut long hair and we will only extend hair, right?
Yes.
So I hope that filled you in. If you had any questions of K-tips versus hand tied, of course, we believe at Adored that our hair, Adored signature hand tied hair, is the best. It is the best for textured girls and guys because our hair is all naturally textured. That means there's no chemical perms, steam perms. Our hair is from India, which is like the hair mecca. The temples there deliver great results with great hair. Yeah, and that's us. So thanks for listening. Bye-bye for now. Follow us on social. Alyssa, what's yours?
Hair by Alyssa Wolf on everything.
Jennifer_Janish, Adored Salon, all one word, Adored_signature_hand-tied_hair for the hairline. You can go check out lots and lots of transformations there, as well as at the salon for all the curly girls and curly extension girls. And on my personal page, it's a lot about me. Your personal page is kind of too, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't really talk about her.
Yeah, you do funny reels. Watch Alyssa for humor.